One of the challenges that we have in the 21st century is that our main investment in public education does not match our main investment in technologies for learning. We have made an incredible public investment in schools as the vehicles to help kids improve their learning, their outcomes, and their chances in life. But the technologies that most kids use to actually learn about the world flourish outside of schools, and they're banned in many schools. And this is a problem. One of the things we have to think about as researchers and as policymakers is how to bring those two worlds together. Let me tell you a story about two different kids. Both high school kids, both pretty good at school, both getting B's in their classes, both enrolled in a science class. I'll call them Cheryl and John. Cheryl is a pretty good student. She comes home with her homework every night, and she turns on a variety of devices to do her homework. She turns on her computer, she clicks on her phone, she opens her textbook and starts looking at her notebook. But when you look at what Cheryl's doing with her technology, she's amplifying her homework experience. She's using Wikipedia to look up different representations of the chemistry cycles that she's trying to study. She's hooked up on Facebook with a study group with her friends where they're reviewing the homework problems. She's looking at Brightstorm or Khan Academy to find a video for another representation of what's going on in her school experience. She's using digital media to create a learning environment for herself that's really powerful and gives her an advantage over the other kids in the class. John, on the other hand, is using the same kinds of technologies but for really different purposes. John turns on some music that he likes to listen to, clicks on an instance of a massively multiplayer game, checks up on his fantasy football team, all the while struggling through his chemistry problems. John's use of technology takes away from his ability to concentrate on his homework and thus makes it difficult for him to multitask between his entertainment world and his homework world. I think the stakes are high for blending technologies in and out of schools, and I think this is really a civil rights issue. Cheryl learns how to use technology from the people around her. Those people are typically professionals. They're people who bring their homework with them. They use email and they use social media to get their work done because of the kind of jobs they have. In other words, Cheryl lives with people who have information technology jobs. This allows her to take their practices and amplify the differences in social class that she has in her family with families who don't have information technology jobs. When we contrast this with kids like John, John has no models for this. All the people who use entertainment technology in his world use it for entertainment. He doesn't know how to use social media and search technologies and web technologies to amplify his learning experiences. And when schools take no stand on the appropriate use of technologies, they recreate the social divide that results from the differences in the way our classes use information technologies in the workplace. I think an important angle for understanding the relation of gaming and schooling is to understand that games are part of a larger technological movement. And the social aspect of gaming is really captured well by the idea of participatory cultures. One of the main ways that you move from being a passive consumer of media to a producer is through the idea of participatory cultures. A really good example of this is modding in games. Game players often run up against characteristics of games that they wish were different. And starting about 10, 12 years ago, savvy game developers started to release the production tools to the wide audience so that players could now make new versions of games, and the game modding world was born. So hardcore gamers often use the production tools of their games to create mods that then they share with other players and get feedback on their own design activities. Another form of making that happens in the game space is machinima, or taking videos of your gameplay and setting them to music and sharing them as aesthetic contributions to the gameplay community. Another example is when expert players, make playthrough pathways. They make videos that they share on YouTube about how to get through the more difficult parts of games. And then the playthrough videos are commented upon by other members of the game community for, this is really good, this part didn't work very well, you have a really good voice, this really sucks. They get contributions or critiques about their production practices. So understanding games as part of this larger social network of participatory culture helps us understand how to make a bridge between the kinds of interaction that we see in the games world and the kinds of interactions that we want to see in more formal education spaces.